Hello, I'm Benny Westside, and this is
Cleaning agent. Or are you talking Tom here?
and yes, Tom, of course, the star of the show.
And what are we doing here
We
today, Benny? What are we doing here today?
we're here to informally, as formal as our like format seems to be, informally just talk about Loki season 2, episode 1, and then overall the show. And we're hoping to do this weekly. Just step a little bit out of the MSF um, playpen and expand more into other Marvel stuff and um, just have fun.
Yeah, and I think we both kind of share a common interest in the MCU and Marvel in general. So we thought this would be a fun idea to just kind of chit chat and explore each other's minds, perhaps, and bitch and or maybe celebrate what's happening in Marvel nowadays, right?
Yeah,
All right. Well, where do you want to start here? I mean, it's episode one. I guess we're starting at the beginning, but
yeah.
where do you want to take it? Where do you want to take off here?
So I'm gonna ask one like very simple question, and I purposely didn't ask you this while we were chatting planning, and maybe you did the same. Did you like the episode,
See,
or overall, what did you think of the
great
episode?
question, and I'll answer you as long winded as possible. I always find the simplest questions of did you or did you not like this the hardest to answer
True, true.
because there's so much going through my mind, and especially because I watched this knowing we were going to talk about it, so I was like very critiquey. Um, Overall, I'll give you this is my short answer, which is already long-winded. Um, as far as Marvel content released in the last 2 to 3 years, this was likable.
Hmm.
And back at you, Benny. What do you think?
Sure. Very short. I didn't like it at all.
Oh, I'm so happy you said that.
It was tough to sit through, man.
I'm
I
so
didn't.
happy you said that. You have no idea the stress I was under thinking, oh man, if Benny really loved this and I'm just gonna like grind on it so hard. But now I can happily say, yeah, I kind of liked it, but like there's definitely issues. And I've been looking on the internet a touch just to be like, put a feeler out. Like, am I in the wrong here? And maybe we're both in the wrong because the internet seems to like it.
They seem to love it, and
Yeah.
that was my thing with season 1 too. Like people are saying it's like the best thing in like what phase was it? Phase 4 with whatever it was. And I was like, it was awful. It was for me probably the worst thing in phase 4.
Okay,
And
okay, okay, Benny. I love where you're going here. Let's do a quick recap of season one.
oh, sure.
What we thought of it, and maybe where it left off, leading up to episode one. So for
Okay.
those of people watching, maybe gets them a little reminder as well. So why don't you shoot us a quick recap of what season one of Loki was and where it ended?
Sure. So let's start saying Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness had been announced. But even if it hadn't been, like this comic book universe or like people, we know about a multiverse. It we know that's a possibility that it might be always existent.
That's comic books, right?
Yes. So we start Loki and they're like there is no multiverse. We're trimming it. We're making sure there's one perfect or like one intended timeline that's going on. Loki is plucked from a point in time where he moves away from that intended timeline as something that happens in Endgame, and he gets recruited into the TVA, who's the ones trimming this timeline.
Right. So instead
Uh,
of getting pruned himself, they actually recruit him for a very specific reason.
Yes.
Which was?
And which was to find somebody else who is constantly avoiding being pruned or trimmed, and come to find out that's another variant of himself, somebody called Sylvie.
Correct. Okay.
And for 6 episodes, they sit around and talk, and then there is like 2 episodes with a bit of action, and then they go to the end of time,
Right.
like a place that's out of time, whatever it is,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Yeah.
they meet a variant of Kang the Conqueror who founded the TVA, and they sit and talk for another episode.
Okay. So let me guess. You're not a fan of talking head scenes, or maybe not a fan of 4 episodes of talking head scenes.
I like talking can be good, but that's not why I come to the MCU.
Okay, that's fair. That's 100% fair. You know, comic books, you're expecting lots of action, lots of spectacle, lots of mayhem, and whatnot, right? That's totally fair. That's
Yeah,
comic books. But I mean, when you're talking about time travel and different timelines and variants, like there's a lot of big brain topics there in theory. So it does make sense that there could be more brainy elements involved in that. Not
yeah.
that I'm defending it. I'm just saying that that's potential. But I do agree with you for the most part of season one. I didn't mind it, but the talking heads wasn't the only issue for me. Again, the lack of action, yes, that wasn't great either. There was like a scene where like buildings were falling down and it was like poorly CGI'd, and was like, why is this even happening? It there seems to be zero stakes, and it came out of nowhere and whatever. I was like, that's weird, but okay. But for me, the more egregious thing, and this has been the through line for all of Loki, is I don't find Loki to be Loki.
Hmm.
At his core, he is the god of mischief. He tries one half-assed attempt to pull a fast one on Mobius, like at the beginning of season one, and then he just turns into like a straight man hero character, and it's boring AF. Is kind of my
Yeah.
like sentiment towards that. And so for me, that was the biggest problem with Loki season one. The only like mischievous Loki was like kid Loki or old man Loki at the end of season one, right? Like
Yeah.
they brought more essence of Loki than Loki, the character we have learned to love through the MCU. And so for me, that was the bigger faux pas. And I don't know. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I completely agree. And like that was the one episode I did like because
Exactly.
there was some activity and like people were interesting to
Mm-hmm.
listen to.
Yeah, and it made sense for the activities they were doing in the scenes, right? And like their tasks and stuff. I was like, okay, this is all building towards them finding he who remains or whatever his name is. And so like that was like the fun, but that was like one episode.
Yeah.
So I mean, so yeah, okay. Both of us feel Loki wasn't an amazing season, the first season. That said, I don't think it was the worst MCU series,
It
TV series.
it wasn't. So when I first watched it for a long time I thought it was because I was abroad and I wasn't able to like watch it weekly.
Right.
And for like 4 or 5 weeks I kept hearing people say how amazing it was. And then I binged it literally right before the finale and then watched the finale live. And
And
it was a letdown.
that's
So I
so
was like,
funny.
no. But a couple months ago, because people are so raving about it, I was like, okay, I need to give this a fair shot. So I rewatched it. And
Oh,
and I did. I honestly rewatched it. I gave it a
nice.
fair shot. It's not as bad as I felt and like my sentiment, but it still wasn't enjoyable.
Yeah, still all the things we kind of are complaining about or critiquing are still
Hmm.
relevant, right? It's not It's not like we were making that up, I don't think. I didn't go as far as you. I watched the last episode again of
Mm.
episode 1 just to like be like, okay, where did it end off and where are we picking up from, just to see that. But yeah, I mean, I I there's multiple reasons. Can let's before we jump into the last episode of season 1 to recap it, I just want to do just as a to feel you out a little bit, your mind, where you're at, and
Mhm.
myself. What would you say is your top MCU TV series to date? And I'm just saying TV series because movies are a very separate entity. They're built differently, and I feel in general Marvel hasn't figured out the formula of how to do TV all that well yet. They're
Yeah.
they're hopefully getting better at it as we go, but I don't feel they've mastered that, especially like compared to like the first few phases of the Marvel movies, right?
Mhm.
But because we're talking about the TV series specifically, and that's what we're here for, what would you say your favorite TV series is, and why? I guess.
Mhm. Uh, and this is just like the Kevin Feige stuff, right? Not none of the Defenders and things like that.
You know what? I don't care. Throw it all in. I'm
Oh,
I'm I'm
sure.
I'm game for any of it.
I think like as a season, Jessica Jones season 1 was like top notch. That was peak superhero content for me.
Okay,
Um, but like it let down in the following follow-up seasons.
sure.
Um,
That's fine. That's fine. So, can you tell me why though Jessica Jones was your number one?
the villain played by David Tennant was perfection. Like
Yes. Okay.
absolutely amazing. He was sinister, he was threatening, and um like there were constant stakes. Jessica Jones was an interesting character. There was action, there was thought, there was like inner human struggle. I think she was an alcoholic. Like
Hmm.
it had everything. It might have gotten dull at times maybe, but I don't even recall that. It was just overall, and it had like moments of shock. Um, I think it had the complete package that first season.
I'm right there with you. I love Jessica Jones, and I think for most people, as far as the TV series go, of any like it's not specifically Disney, which is fine. And I just said like Disney has its issues, which is probably why neither of our top contenders are Disney made specifically. But mine is a different choice, and only for very specific reasons. I do feel Jessica Jones is probably overall a better season 1, but I have a soft spot for the season 1 Daredevil. And the
Mm.
main reason for that is I'm quite fond of martial arts and fight movies, martial arts movies, and I found the fight scenes in that was just so incredibly done, and I loved the way they created the atmosphere around um, Hell's Kitchen and like the darkness and how it's hard to see things, but it's not like DC hard to see things. It's not the DCU, just horrible. It's actually properly lit. You can see what's supposed to happen, but everything else is very grim and gloomy. Much like Daredevil's blind, can't see, but he can sense what's happening, kind of thing. I really enjoyed that and I dug that. And again, I believe like the characters in that were well developed and well written, aside from maybe Foggy, who is kind of a trash bag. But overall, very well done. So yeah, I again see I'm finding these similarities in like why we like things, and that's why I really enjoy doing this right now. So okay,
Yeah,
I like this. I like this. I like where we're going. What happens at the end of season 1, leading up to the premiere in season 2?
sure. So, they get to the end of time. They meet who founded the TVA, and it is He Who Remains, who's a variant of Kang. He explains how in like what would be our MCU future, but like in his past, he found a way to communicate through the multiverse with his variants, and they initially started like this amazing exchange of technology, but eventually started infighting, and it caused a devastating multiversal war. So, to end people's suffering, he decided to end all of the other timelines,
which
aside from the one that led to him.
which is just
Sure,
actually ending people's lives
in a different way, yeah.
in a different way, but much more organized fashion, I suppose.
Yes,
Checks and balances, I guess. Keep it simple, which is good.
exactly.
I like simple. I'm a simple man.
And
So
he kind of gives, yeah,
no, go ahead, go ahead.
I was saying he kind of gives them a choice of either let me be or kill me and take over and continue this, pruning, or like let chaos run amok, kill me and let timelines branch and like refound the multiverse basically.
Now, I mean, you recently just watched the last episode again, and I
Yeah.
recently watched the last episode again. Let's be honest, I fell asleep because, as we said, it's talking heads. Um, does he actually say, "Leave me be," or he's more
Oh, maybe.
specifically like, "I know what's going to happen. Here's
Hmm.
your options: kill me, take over, or let chaos reign."
Yeah.
Right? Like he seems to be done either way.
Yeah, I guess he's accepted that he's dying at that point, or he's
It,
gonna be
yeah,
killed.
yeah, he's finished either way. It felt like he really didn't want to do this anymore to me,
Yeah.
right? Like he's like, I've done this for who knows how long, right? And he's probably bored out of his gourd, really.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't even imagine.
Like if you know everything that's going to happen and you are just constantly on hedge trimming duty, what a boring life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, I think, where season one ends. I think that's a pretty fair assessment. And I
Yeah.
guess Loki and Sylvie are. uh, She does make the move at the end of season one, right? She
Yeah.
chooses.
She punches Loki back into the TVA and then kills Kang.
Right.
That's how they're separated.
Right. So in theory, all we know is Kang's dead. So either one of two things: Sylvie and Loki take over the TVA, or chaos reigns.
Yes.
That's all we know going into season two.
Yeah.
All right. What happens in season two? And what did you like about it? Let's start with what you liked about it.
I mean, I keep hearing the same thing. Keihui Kwan was great. Yeah, he was great.
Okay,
But
100%. He was. He was the highlight of the
yeah,
episode. Bar
but
none.
like, did he save it?
um,
I think.
here's my opinion. Marvel has trouble setting up a season. Like at the very core, what did they set up in episode 1? What do you want to have set up in a first episode of a second season?
I want to know either what our mystery is or like what we're hunting. I have no idea what's coming.
Yeah, so in theory, you want to do a quick recap of whatever happened last season, which most TV shows just do an actual recap, which I think they did. And then
Yeah.
you want to know where that's leading to, right? What is
Yeah.
the in theory, what is the end result going to look like, or like point you in the direction of where this season's going to go? Did they do that?
Not in the slightest.
So maybe
I'm trying
they
to think.
maybe they did, but maybe you just don't like where it's
Mm,
going. Maybe. I mean, we can talk about that. But yes, let's go back to Obi. Obviously the highlight of the show.
yes.
And maybe this is why I'm thinking Obi is the highlight. Obi was the focus for me.
Hmm.
What's his actual name?
Ouroboros.
Ouroboros. What is that?
I think it means golden bull, but don't quote me. I think that's what it means.
I thought it was something to do with a dragon eating itself or something. What is that?
Oh, let me see.
I'm pretty sure it has something to do with the end is the beginning is the end, and it all
Oh,
is
it is.
cyclical,
Yeah.
right?
It's a snake swallowing its
A
tail.
snake. Sorry, yes, a snake.
Yeah.
So to me, that's the biggest foreshadowing of the whole season right there. Is that everything is going to be this secular beginning and end moment. He's traveling to the past, the future, the present, and I think that's all kind of filler, really, because the whole episode is them fixing him from transporting all over time.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's what they used as filler, but I think the core of the show is this circular serpent thing. And that's why Obi stood out and was probably the most enjoyable part, not let alone the actor just crushing it on screen,
Yeah.
right? But does that mean we like it? I don't know.
Yeah, it's like the internal logic of the episode or even the show I don't get. Like last season, they were using those rods or they rodded each other to go to like the time dumpster, right? Where
Yeah,
the
yeah,
other
yeah.
Lokis were.
Don't get me wrong, I
So
like a good rotting.
yeah, there's a place you go where when you get rotted. But
Right.
here they were acting like, "Oh, if we rot him, he's going to disappear forever. We have to pull him from like the timeline whatever at the exact moment that we rot him."
Mm-hmm.
What does that even mean? Just go back to the time dumpster and get him.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's like they're trying to science their way through all these weird explanations to give this episode and this what I'm calling it a I don't know its own arc of this episode is like he's not jumping into different timelines like different branches. He's jumping within he's time splitting, which is he's going into different times of this timeline, right?
Hmm.
And because they say he's partially in all of these different time periods, if they prune him, his body will be separated permanently, I assume death, into any of these time periods. And that's why they have to pluck him out at the right time. But it's all really superficial, like this is just a thing for this episode.
Yeah, I guess.
So it has some stakes and there's some running around and we got to do this and some cool CGI. And don't get me wrong, some of the better CGI I've seen in the TV series.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
kudos
Like
to that.
Spectacle, as unnecessary as it felt, like the spectacle scene was beautiful.
Exactly.
It was. But let me tell you this. This is episode 1.
Yes.
And we've seen the trailers. We knew he was going to be okay unless if they had the balls to kill him and like get another Loki variant and the rest of the show continues with that other variant, I would have been like, wow. But
yeah, I agree.
We knew he was going to be okay.
I mean, I didn't watch the trailers because I don't care. But even then, it's Tom Hiddleston. He's obviously the star of the show. He's going to be in it. So yes, there's no real stakes there. So again, it's like this is me reaching and hoping this time splitting thing is going to come back around. Like Obi, everything's circular. This time splitting is going to be used or is used to get us where we're going, even though they just plucked him and essentially solved that problem. So it's like weird. It's like, okay, they solved this problem, but is it something that's going to benefit? If it's not going to benefit us in the rest of the season, it's a complete dumpster fire of an episode. 100%. I don't care if it's fun and CGI spasmatic. I don't care. It's useless to telling us the story, right? So that's why I'm like, I'm trying my damnedest to be like, reach for, okay, he's time splitting. Is that going to be used later? And so I guess that brings us to like, we didn't say a whole lot about the episode because there's not much. Again, it's them talking in an elevator for most of it. But at the end, he can't find his prune stick. He's running to a phone for some unknown reason, and he sees Sylvie. Everything's cool, I guess. It's all like, what's gonna happen? How is this gonna get fixed? And then somebody prunes him from behind. So that's
Yes.
like the biggest. It's like a cliffhanger ending or like a who done it. But it's also
If
like you've given us zero information.
yeah, if I may rephrase, he gets rotted from behind.
Thank you. He gets a good rough rotting in the back.
Yes.
Yes. So my only thought is, did he rod himself?
Oh, like future Loki or like other Loki.
Is that the circular,
Mm,
or it could be anybody who knows about time splitting? Right, Mobius, Obi, anybody could have a time split to prune him or whatever to get there, and that's like my only logistical. And that's, I don't know if you've watched any of my other stupid streams or videos. I'm all about logicking through things, and that's the only logical explanation to do all this time slipping, is that it will come back around at the end of this season.
I hope it does. I hope they like intentionally time split to use it to their benefit or something. Which, let me say this, the writers used time splitting to their benefit in that scene where like Ouroboros was having a conversation with Mobius, and then in the past Loki was feeding him information,
Exactly.
and he was remembering it as that was beautiful. Like
Yes,
that was amazing. That was
I
probably the
agree.
highlight for me.
I was just gonna say same thing. That sequence with Obi and the past to present was the highlight
Yes.
of the episode, and that's why I feel, because that was the focus, that's gonna be what's happening in future episodes to find out who rotted him.
Hmm.
So that's why I was like hesitant to say I liked the episode, because it had all the comic booky stuff, the action silliness, um, but
I
it,
think
it, it just didn't give us enough of like where it's going. I think they could have summed that up quicker with just as much fun and moved us further into this story, if there's going to
yeah.
be any story.
I think one of my problems might be that I feel claustrophobic in the TVA. Like those scenes to me always, and maybe it's just a budget thing, but they're like a production budget thing. They always feel like they're stuck there, and I like the episodes where they go on excursions and trying to do something
Yep.
in like a timeline in a location. So there's this like one hallway, but like balcony hallway, and it's curved, and they designed it so that you don't see where it's coming from or where it's going, so that they can do so many scenes there. But they do so many scenes there.
Right. I mean, I agree with you, but I also want to counter you a little bit on that.
Hmm.
As far as like a production design, it makes
Hmm.
sense because the
Hmm.
TVA very much feels like this drab office environment that's like
Hmm.
horrible working conditions. People have been working for hundreds of years in the same position, doing the same things over and over again. And so
Yeah.
I can kind of feel that callback, and it kind of dated office small environments. So I
Hmm.
feel like it's a intentional production choice and design choice, so that when they do go out on their adventures, they do seem more grandiose and open
Hmm.
world and adventure-y. Um, but that doesn't mean what you're feeling is wrong. I think that's totally legit. That you're like, yeah, it totally is claustrophobic and makes it feel like small and like, I don't know, budget almost, I guess. Yeah, is what you're kind of going with. But like, I think it was an intentional choice. Whether it works or is right or wrong is really irrelevant and up to each individual, right? And I might think about those things more than like an average viewer because of my background in like theater and acting and things, because I've done set design and all those different things and thought about that kind of stuff more, where it's like people just watching shows are like, I'm just watching a show, this is awesome or this sucks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I don't know. I'm not here to change your mind. I'm just here to like
No,
explain things that I think.
that was a good point, and I would concur that from that standpoint, it is well designed. But I just want them to do those excursions
For sure,
already.
for sure. And you're totally right, because it is us coming from season 1, episode whatever, them sitting in a room talking for an hour, to us sitting in an elevator talking for an hour. It's the same thing. We're not getting this fun journey, right? It doesn't matter, the stakes are huge. If you're running around a small corner of your cubicle, it's like it doesn't seem grandiose and comic booky, right? 100%. I
Yeah.
definitely agree with you. Well, where do we go from here, Benny? What do you think, buddy? Have we
So I guess we're kind of winding down, and like maybe we can like go into our hopes and like guesses maybe for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
And I really hope, I want this to be good and I want to enjoy it. I really do. And I was, as much as I didn't enjoy season 1, I was pretty hyped after seeing the trailers for this coming season. One thing that, now that we looked up this Ouroboros and you pointed that out and like this loop thing,
Mm-hmm.
I started to wonder, and obviously they look so different, but could he be a Kang variant?
Could Loki be a Kang variant? Or
No, could
Obi
Ouroboros? Yeah,
could be, because going back to the episode, he was never mind erased.
yeah.
So that totally makes sense. Having a fun, lovable character uh, could easily go that direction.
Hmm.
I hope not, because I just love data for data. Uh, but yeah, it's definitely a possibility. But I do feel like that was the big change this season so far. So I think that has more to do with where this is going. And it also kind of bleeds into like Kang talking about, chaos ruling and all the Kangs coming out and fighting for supreme, victory, is what happened however many years ago. So this is another cyclical pattern we're going to see. It's
Mm.
going to lead to the chaos because it's done it before, and we're just, it's like the 80s fad coming back around. We're going to all be wearing fanny packs again, and that's just the way it goes. The world works in circular cyclical cycles.
It's true.
Yeah. And the TVA is rigid and unmoving. And so that's going to get blown apart. And we're going to get circular, baby. That's my only guess. What that means ultimately, as the Kang variants busting wild, getting their freak on, which is going to lead into whatever other shows or movies. I think that's the only safe thing I can say. I think this is where it's going. But how they handle it, if they handle it good, still up in the air.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
That's my thoughts. I don't know. That's my thought. Do you have any other thoughts? Any questions? I mean, we didn't talk about a lot. I'm hoping you're right with grandiose journeys and adventures. I mean, a lot of the TVA agents were going through doors, man. They were running out into the wild somewhere. So hopefully that's
Yeah.
wide open adventures that they have to stop or prevent. My worry is it's going to be all TVA focused. Them
Mm.
stopping this TVA split of half want to let it ride, let the branches go, and half want to shut it down and keep it on the straight and narrow, and that's all we get. That's going to be disappointment for me. I want to get to the wild Kang variants popping up everywhere. What are we gonna do? That's what I want to get to.
I see. Yeah, if they go Kang hunting, that would be interesting.
Yeah, or not even like, yeah, Kang hunting or even locating, like just being like, wow, this branch is like cratering, and like they just hear about people just like crushing other things or like destroying branches themselves. It's out of TVA's hands. Like that would be kind of cool. But if they're just like fighting the TVA the whole season, I don't find
Hmm.
that going to be as fun or adventurous as like I think you want.
Yeah.
I think I
Yeah,
want.
I want to see Ravonna Renslayer come back and like be a villain, like, or
Okay.
or what, like whatever she does, I want her to pose like be powerful. Whether she poses a threat or not,
Hmm.
just I want her to be powerful.
She's an interesting character. Do you know a lot about her comic book wise?
I know that she's been like a partner, both like romantically and like professionally to
Right.
Kang.
Yeah, yeah.
Like they work together. Um, but I do think she's also like she's swayed back and forth between hero and villain too, right?
I think so. So I think you're right.
Mm.
The majority of, from what I know of her, is that she's more like a love interest to Kang. That's who Kang wants to be with. But anytime any Kang gets together with her, it always ends in her demise in some way.
Oh.
And so like they never actually get to be together, which is like,
Hmm.
a cool villain story arc that's like really interesting.
It's like
um
his Gwen Stacy.
yeah, for sure.
Like Gwen has to die, right?
Yeah, for sure. I hope they can give her more stakes than just that, being Kang's side piece. Hopefully, just in this day and age, that would be better. But
Yeah.
if they can explore that, that's kind of cool to like um, just reinforce and build Kang's character even more. I think that would be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That's all I got, man. What do you is that what
I
this
think
is?
yeah, I think that's what it is.
Dude, it's been an absolute pleasure.
It's been fantastic, man. I had so much fun. You opened my mind to so many things.
Well, hopefully,
Um,
I hope season 2 can open our minds further, or at least we can like see it crash and burn and be like, oh, they could have gone so many ways, and they didn't. The circle meant nothing, and I'll be like so distraught. I think that's entertaining too in its own way.
Loki, Tom Hiddleston, you gotta deliver.
You got this, buddy. We believe in you. Yeah, I mean it's a great cast. They've got great material to work with. Can Marvel Disney execute it? Let's find out.
Yes. Yes.
I'm willing to go on that journey with you, sir. Not Tom. Past Tom over to Benny. I'm willing to go on that journey with you, and I'm looking forward to just chit chatting away with you and shooting out ideas.
As am I. I think just doing this with you, I'm gonna enjoy it already so much more than season one.
That's what I'm actually excited for, is
Yeah.
this more than the show. But because the show's the catalyst, I'll enjoy the show because of it. So 100% I'm
Yeah.
with you. I'm on board. All right,
Yeah.
well, what's a sign off? We gotta like sign this thing off. Like, I don't know. You got something clever you want to say in closing?
I I
Oh,
got it
yes.
for all time.
Always.